When I look back on my teenage years, there's one chapter that still feels like it was lifted straight out of a movie. The time I learned what it truly meant to live with someone who saw the world differently. That person was my stepmom, Evelyn. Before you imagine the usual cliches, let me clear something up. Evelyn was nothing like the stereotypical stepmother. She didn't bake cookies in floral aprons, didn't gossip with the neighbors, and certainly didn't fade into the background. Evelyn was Gothic. Striking jet black hair, dark eyeliner that framed her sharp eyes, and an endless wardrobe of elegant black clothes. To most people, that image might sound intimidating, even eerie. But to me, over time, it became strangely comforting. A quiet presence that eventually came to feel like home. I can still picture the first day she arrived. The sky was heavy with grey clouds, threatening to spill rain at any moment. My dad had just remarried, and I stood on the porch watching as a sleek black car pulled into the driveway. When Evelyn stepped out, she looked almost otherworldly. Tall, graceful, her pale skin glowing against the dim light, as though she had stepped out of a painting. She carried herself with a calm, assured grace that made everything around her seem to pause for a moment. She smiled softly and said, "You must be Jamie. I've heard a lot about you." Her voice was gentle, smooth, with just a hint of mystery. I muttered a shy, "Hi," unsure of what to feel. My dad looked happier than he had in years, so I told myself to try. To give her a chance. Those first few days, though, were awkward. Evelyn began redecorating corners of the house, hanging dark velvet curtains, and placing antique candles on the mantel. She swapped out Dad's old furniture for vintage pieces that looked like they belonged in an old Victorian novel. Soon the house carried a faint scent of sandalwood and lavender. It wasn't unpleasant, just unfamiliar. And when you're 13, unfamiliar things can feel a lot like fear. At school, my friends couldn't resist making jokes when they heard about my Gothic stepmom. They imagined her casting spells or living in some dimly lit tower. I laughed along to blend in, but deep down, I wasn't laughing at all. Mole, I overheard a group of parents whispering about her, calling her strange, saying she looked like she belonged in a horror movie. I felt my stomach twist. They didn't know her. They didn't know how gentle she was, how her laugh could fill a quiet room, or how she always noticed when someone felt left out. Deep down, I felt protective of her. She wasn't like that at all. One evening, when Dad was away on a business trip, Evelyn knocked softly on my door. "Hey Jamie, want to help me make dinner?" I hesitated. Cooking wasn't really my thing, but her calm smile made it hard to say no. In the kitchen, she handed me a cutting board and a knife. "We're making lentil soup," she said. "It's my grandmother's recipe." As I chopped vegetables, she hummed quietly. Not pop songs or radio tunes, but hauntingly beautiful melodies I couldn't place. The sound was strangely comforting, like the kind of song that could calm storms. The kitchen, filled with the smell of herbs and warmth, felt peaceful in a way I hadn't expected. After dinner, we sat across from each other at the table. "So," she asked, "how's school?" I shrugged. "It's fine." She smiled knowingly. Fine usually means not fine. That made me laugh, and something inside me softened. For the first time, I opened up about the pressure to fit in, about how my friends didn't really understand me, and how I often felt like I didn't belong anywhere. Evelyn listened quietly, her eyes kind, never interrupting or judging. That night, I realized there was so much more to her than dark clothes and quietness. Over the next few weeks, our talks became a habit. I'd often find her reading in her cozy library. Shelves lined with old books about history, art, and philosophy. She started lending them to me, one after another. Her way of thinking fascinated me. She'd say things like, "Light means nothing without darkness," or "People fear what they don't understand." At first, I thought they were just poetic sayings, but over time, I understood she was teaching me balance, perspective, and empathy. One sunny afternoon, I found her in the garden, dressed in a long black gown, planting rose bushes. "You like gardening?" I asked, surprised. She smiled. "It's peaceful. Even the darkest soil can grow something beautiful." That sentence stayed with me for years. It was Evelyn in a nutshell. Someone who found light in shadows, beauty in brokenness. But not everyone saw her that way. Some people in town weren't kind. Once, at the grocery store, a woman whispered loud enough for us to hear, "That's the goth woman who married Mr. Carter." Poor man. I clenched my fists. But Evelyn just smiled gently and kept walking. Later, in the car, she said, "People often fear what they can't define. You just have to let them be." That's when I realized strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it looks like grace in the face of judgment, of her presence. Calm, steady, and comforting. The house always felt warmer when Evelyn was around, like her energy lingered in every corner. Soft and grounding, one evening during winter break, I walked into the living room and found her reading by the fire, a cup of tea in her hands, the soft glow of candlelight flickering around her. For a moment, I just stood there, watching, realizing how much she had shaped the person I'd become. I thought back to that night in December when she showed me the stars, how she'd said, "You're allowed to shine in your own strange, beautiful way." At the time, it sounded poetic. Now, it was a truth I lived by. She had taught me that strength didn't always mean fighting back. Sometimes, it meant staying true to yourself, even when the world didn't understand. When I hugged her goodbye before returning to college, she slipped a small envelope into my coat pocket. On the train, I opened it. Inside was a pressed rose petal and a note that read, "Light and darkness exist together." That's what makes the sky worth looking at. Years later, whenever I feel uncertain or out of place, I still think of Evelyn, her quiet wisdom, her black dresses dusted with sunlight, her belief that beauty exists in contrast. She wasn't the kind of stepmom I expected. She was something far more rare, a guide, a teacher, a gentle soul who helped me see that being different isn't something to hide from. It's something to grow from. When I was 21, I returned home for the summer after being away for quite some time. Evelyn had transformed the living room since I'd last seen it. It still carried her signature Gothic charm, but now it felt warmer, inviting even. Black velvet curtains framed the windows. Silver picture frames glimmered softly under lamplight, and green plants filled the corners with quiet life. When she saw me, she smiled warmly. "Jaime, you've grown taller," she said. We spent hours catching up, laughter filling the space between old memories. She proudly showed me her newest art projects. She had begun painting. Her canvases were mesmerizing. Dark forests under glowing moons. Faces bathed in gentle candlelight. Her art carried a stillness, an ache that felt both sad and peaceful at once. Later that evening, we sat together on the porch as the summer air settled around us. She turned to me and said something I've never forgotten. "You know, people often think being Gothic means loving darkness," she began, her voice calm. "But really, it's about appreciating contrast. Life is full of shadows. They make the light shine brighter." That was Evelyn. She had a way of turning what others feared into something full of meaning. Over the years, I came to realize how deeply she shaped me. Her patience taught me empathy. Her quiet confidence reminded me to stop living for others' opinions. And her gentleness proved that strength doesn't always shout. It can whisper and still be powerful. When I speak of my stepmom now, I don't call her Gothic. I call her graceful. She taught me that being different isn't about standing out. It's about standing true. Evelyn still dresses in black, still paints, and still surrounds herself with old books and flickering candles. But I no longer see her as mysterious. To me, she is warmth wrapped in elegance, the person who taught me to find beauty where most people never look. So, what's it like having a Gothic stepmom? It's like living inside a piece of art. It's finding peace in silence. It's understanding that love doesn't have to look ordinary to be real. We often think families must fit some cheerful, predictable picture. But Evelyn showed me that families built on understanding and respect are far stronger than any stereotype. Now, as an adult, whenever I light a candle or hear the soft notes of a piano, I think of her. Her lessons echo quietly in everything I do. And when life feels heavy, I hear her voice again, steady and kind, reminding me even the darkest soil can grow something beautiful. And I smile because she was right.